All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Your Money Matters, a financial empowerment show where we seek to move the culture forward in conjunction with cmpradio.net to bring valuable insight and information as it pertains to money and finances. This is definitely a show for anyone who is along their financial journey, especially in 2023. We set these resolutions to get on track and to do some things. So we have had a host of experts and folks to share wisdom and insight. To recap, we started off with getting into the money mindset so that we can be in the right mindset to take the journey. We talked about tax preparation. We talked about life insurance as it pertains to building a strong financial house. We've talked about investments and that being another layer of building your financial house. We did 2 weeks of that. And then we had credit repair, which are so important when it comes to getting out of debt so that you can become financially independent. This week, due to it being the last day of Black History Month, we wanted to kind of close it out in celebration, but also recognizing that there is still some work to be done when it comes to the African American community, where we spend our dollars and how things are looking. So, although this is a show for all, this evening we will be celebrating and highlighting the African American journey. So we called it Are We There Yet? So we'll be talking with some folks this evening. We have a lovely couple on. Mr. Shelton and Miss Tiffany Brown. They are a couple that is out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and they've been committed to the education and growth and prosperity of small businesses for the last 20 years. Shelton has an extensive background in accounting, tax, business development, drawn from his work experience with Arthur Andersen, Amoco Fuels, the IRS, as well as his 26 years of business ownership. Mr. Brown is the proud owner of Accounting Consulting Tax and Human Resources Incorporated, which is a global provider of accounting, tax, and business development services. Putting his own principles into practice has allowed his business to expand internationally, yet his passion remains with developing strong local presence of Black businesses. And so we will also highlight his lovely wife, Miss Tiffany Brown, and she brings her educational, professional, and personal touches to a group that they have started called Black Wall Street Charlotte. She completed her studies in finance with a concentration in insurance, near and dear to my heart, as many know, and risk management at Virginia Commonwealth University. Ms. Brown has worked in several areas of the insurance industry over the last 30 years. While doing so, she's also began her real estate career, which started in Virginia and later expanded into the Carolinas, where she's still an active broker agent. Tiffany Brown is the owner of the Legacy Resource Group, LLC, which was created as a funding solution for minorities and small business owners to obtain capital. Tiffany's love for helping and empowering people has continued to be the reason for everything she does, and she's very excited to be able to enrich the economic of the Charlotte community through the platform. And I can't speak enough about. Are you all there, Tiffany and Shelton? Are you there?
Yes, we're here.
Okay. Hopefully I'll see you on the screen in a moment. But I cannot talk about while they are queuing them up to be. There we go. Now
There
I
we
can
go.
see you all. Beautiful. So I want to first and foremost tell you how honored I am for you to be on the show this evening, as we seek to provide meaningful content. I think your message is extremely important and will help some people this evening. So I'm honored to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we'll be talking about a lot of different things, but I can't stress enough the importance of networking, right? Social media has become a really awesome tool for networking, which is how I found this couple. I'm always looking for guests to be on the show, and they were more than eager to come aboard. So I'm super excited to have you on. And I know I read a little bit about your bio, but just kind of share your personal story a little bit.
Want to go first?
You go first.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having us here. I am very excited to be able to speak on something that is near and dear to both of us. As you shared in my bio, my entire life has been somewhere between finance and insurance and real estate, all things money. So, with that love and passion, I always wanted to be able to help people. So, everything that I do, whether it's in real estate, funding, helping people to get ready for funding or whatever they need to do, I am more than excited to share everything that I've learned and all the tools that we have in our bag to help people get what they need.
I love it. Very
And
nice.
as for me, my background has always been math, love numbers. Actually, I didn't even want to be an accountant. I wanted to be a computer designer, but I was kind of pushed into this direction, and I've been loving it since. It allows me to work directly with my clients. I'm an educator. I've taught, and tutored and in so many different areas. So I'm excited to be able to use my math background and love for numbers, and then what just kind of pushed me into the business development area was that as I began to work with my clients on the tax side, I just noticed that a lot of them just wasn't prepared. So I wanted to use what I've learned, even with working, in the government and different things like that, to help my clients navigate through the system of business development.
Okay, that's fantastic. And I guess for a fun fact, how did you all come up with Black Wall Street Charlotte?
Very interesting story. I'm a native of Charlotte, and so when I moved back here, I wanted to get involved with with what was going on in the city that I love. So I was approached by some members of City Council to get involved with our Black Chamber, and so I wanted to really, just jump in and do what I could. But I saw an opportunity and a need to really bring back the legacy, or to bring back the movement of Black Wall Street Charlotte, but Black Wall Street in itself. So I did the research, and I said, I want to see if the name is available. And I was really shocked that the name was available. I was like, wow, of all the names, this was available. So I wanted to do that, and I, did the research and got the name, and then I came to my wife and said, I got a surprise for you, and because she didn't know what I was doing, and I said, look what I got. I got this. I showed her all of my paperwork, and it just kind of went from there. And it just gives us an opportunity to really do what our mission and what our vision is for Black Wall Street, and to just bring back a lot of the history, a lot of the pride and excellence that was a part of the original, the well-known original Black Wall Street in Tulsa.
Sure.
Mhm.
Since you mentioned that, explain for some of the listeners, because people will hear Black Wall Street, people will hear, a lot of the quote unquote woke topics that people are speaking of. Just spend a few minutes when you say trying to recreate Black Wall Street. Just take us back to the Tulsa, Oklahoma Black Wall Street tragedy.
Yes. Well, if you're older than 40 or 50, you probably have heard about it. I think one thing for the younger generation is for them to understand that Black people really owned a lot of things. And in Oklahoma, what happened was that there was an area that was supposed to have been designated for, for basically for Black people to have their own space. What happened in the major parts of Oklahoma, Blacks wasn't allowed, to shop or to buy or to live or in certain areas. So there was a group that um, they were able to acquire some land, which was later called Greenwood. And then the gentleman named Gurley moved to that area and he wanted to start developing it. So during this time before 1921, the massacre was actually in 1921, but prior to that, they owned their own hotels. There were 2 hotels that was owned by Black people. There was a theater. The very first entertainment venue in Oklahoma was in Tulsa, in Greenwood, and so they had their own theater. And surprisingly, there were several Black people that had private planes. They had their own airport. They had their own school, grocery stores. And the thing about it is that it was theirs. They didn't rent the property from anybody outside of the Black community. So it wasn't like it was a Black business, and the building was rented by some white person. They owned everything. They owned the buildings that they were in. And even with Greenwood, white people from Tulsa came into Greenwood to buy their products. So, and then this is really one of the first instances where the Black dollar was able to stay in the community, which is devastatingly different than what it is now. But with Tulsa, they were able to be owners. They owned everything that belonged to them, and anything they needed. They had car dealerships. They had garages. You name it. It was definitely a Black-owned opportunity, and that's why a lot of people we're hearing about, this quote unquote woke movement. But what a lot of people don't realize is that it's a difference between owning where you're housed and creating a Black business opportunity. So what a lot of the Black Wall Street movement is now is to eventually get to a point where we can actually own our own land, own our own neighborhoods, own our own business communities. There's a group out of Atlanta where they bought a old mall where they purchased the mall. So now they have a Black Wall Street village or marketplace. So those are the things that's reminiscent of what Tulsa was. And then unfortunately, we are, those that know about Tulsa, you had the riots. You had where the gentleman was accused of basically molesting a lady in the elevator. There was a riot that ensued later, and then later, of course, she admitted that she wasn't actually attacked. But by that time, it was too late. So they destroyed everything in Tulsa. Different accounts say that there were bombs that was released of what they call Molotov cocktails and different things like that to burn down the whole entire community of Greenwood. They did try to rebuild Black Wall Street, the area of Greenwood. They were successful at one point, but then Tulsa changed an ordinance to where they wouldn't allow them to get the insurances that they needed to rebuild. And then there was a gentleman that came who was an attorney, and he was able to get a lot of that overturned. And then as Greenwood was rebuilding, the city came in and ran like a highway through the area that blocked off to where you could get to Greenwood easily. So now Greenwood, they're struggling, but they are striving again, but it's not to the level that they were prior to that. But one thing we just want people to understand is that as Black people, we are excellent in what we do. And Greenwood was an example of the excellence that business owners and consumers and those residents had back then.
Understood.
Mhm.
And if I am not mistaken, the folks, the descendants or the family members of those who lost so much during the Tulsa City riots, bombings, massacres. Um, they are still trying to recoup money from
Yes,
what took place.
that is true. That is true. They're
Yeah.
still trying to recoup money, even on the 100th anniversary that they had CBS and PBS and CNN and all of them did interviews with them, and that was one of the main things that was brought up was that even to this day they're still trying to get recouped for that.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So, so as far as your journey goes, I could see the influence and the importance. And I'll ask you probably what your vision is for what you're creating probably a little bit later.
Yes.
But that history is really really important for us to know.
Mhm.
You know, because we African Americans are probably the biggest consumers in the world when it comes to their dollar, and often we spend quite a bit of money and things are not put back into the communities that are flourishing. And we might watch other groups of people, and shout out to all the other groups of people who are really acknowledging and congratulating the show on the efforts to educate and empower. I've gotten several DMs where people understand how important it is for us to close this wealth gap.
Mhm.
Kudos to them for their level of understanding. How we spend and what we own. If I could share some statistics, uh, 0.06 on a dollar is all we spend with Black businesses.
Mhm.
So if we're trying to flourish or grow, often we're not putting the money into our own communities. If you look at other groups of people, that is one thing that they pride themselves on. They will spend money in their own communities before they will spend it in someone else's community. African Americans make up about 13% of the American population and only have 1% of ownership. I said 1% of ownership of total wealth in this
Mhm.
country. That is staggering, right?
Yes, for sure.
We don't own the streets. Our people walk every day. Other ethnic groups are told to come to our communities and set up businesses because we will spend our money with them. So if you look at the hair industry, the nail industry, the
Mhm.
corner stores, all of those folks know that we are the biggest consumers, and they plant themselves in our communities for those reasons. How did we become a nation of consumers, right? I'll share some other statistics on what we spend our money on. We spend $3.3 billion on tobacco products.
Mhm.
We spend $3 billion on whiskey, wine, and beer. We spend $2.8 billion on non-alcoholic beverages. 3.1 billion in leisure time. 3.5 billion on toys, games, and pets. 19 billion on telephone services per year. 54% of blacks own smartphones, and it's probably even higher than that. um, 10 billion on gifts, 17 billion with charitable organizations, which I can understand completely. 13 billion on gambling, 29.3 billion on clothing, 65.2 billion on processed foods,
Ooh.
23.6 billion for healthcare, and 321 million, the lowest on this whole list that I read, on books
Wow.
and education. So, while we have the desires and the wants of things, if that money could be reallocated to do some other things. Often we live in the now and we don't necessarily plan for the future. I invited you to here today to not just talk about what we're spending the money on, but how we could do things a little bit better when it comes to creating wealth, creating a legacy. Our whole makeup over the last several weeks has been on wealth building tips, tools, and strategies that we can use to help to build wealth. So I'll let you all kind of share with us a little bit. But I threw those statistics out because they're things that we can correct. We've come a mighty long way, but we still have a lot of work to do. So, what do you want to share with this audience today?
Well, I do want to thank you for those statistics. They are quite sobering. And I think sometimes we need to hear those things so that we understand exactly what we are doing with our money.
Absolutely.
One of the other points that you brought up is very important about how we spend and where we spend. And most of the times it's outside of our community. And so, what we really want to do is try to change things so that we can retain some of that wealth and recycle it back into the community. I remember watching, it was a Netflix documentary, and they were talking about this very thing. And they mentioned how other ethnic groups keep the money in their community. Like the Asians, they kept it for 28 days. Jewish people, it was 21 to 23 days. And for Blacks, it was 6 hours. And so the gentleman, he challenged himself to try to just buy Black owned everything for 3 days. And he could not do it. He was miserable. He couldn't find the things that he needed. And so when we think about things like Greenwood and how things used to be when we had a self-sufficient place where we everything was self-sustaining, we could do that. But now everything is it's broken up and we don't own the things that we need to in order to be that way now. So
Sure.
with that, I think that is very important for us. And it really is true to our hearts and dear to us to make sure that we're able to help the community to try to get back to where things were in some kind of way. With Black Wall Street, Charlotte, our goal and our vision is really to focus on the things that that we need in the community in order to build up the businesses, to create the foundation so that they are sustainable businesses, so that we can offer goods and services back to the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also to add to that, I think one of the big areas is that what we've talked about this with even just in creating and building Black Wall Street Charlotte is about changing the way we think about our own community. We've been conditioned to believe that the white man's ice is colder than ours. We've been conditioned to think that Black people are inferior to where we believe that ourselves. So we're not spending money in our community because we automatically assume, that the auto repair guy is not going to be as good as the guy across town, and he's right there in your community. So a lot of those things is that, even to close the wealth gap, to even close the wealth gap in our community, we have to spend money in our community. We need to spend money amongst ourselves. That's one of those areas that we can do to tackle the wealth gap that we're dealing with, because we are the only community, like you said before, where we'll go and spend money in everybody else's community before we spend it in our own.
Absolutely. And as I said, other groups have been extremely successful by doing that. By lining those things up, and I don't see anything wrong with positioning yourself to do that. We're gonna spend money. We're gonna, there are things that are going to be outside of our community that we are going to purchase, that we are going to buy, and that's fine. But at the same time, the net worth of the Black family is extremely low at the end of the year, right? Net worth being under $9,000 at the end of the year, you know, and amongst other groups, we are the lowest on the totem pole for those reasons, you know, and we just want to break that cycle and find a way that we can not just spend with our and within our communities, but also to reallocate the money, right? We're doing some things that we probably shouldn't be doing with our money that is hindering us from advancing. You know, I talk about how we don't pass wealth with life insurance. We don't do that, right? Consequently, we pass poverty. We leave our babies to go weaken somebody else's financial house because we don't have life insurance. We're making GoFundMe rich because we don't properly plan. And this is not exclusive to us, but you end up seeing us doing it a whole lot because we live in the now, right? If we
Right.
make $2,300 a month, we don't take 100 of it and go put it somewhere where, you know, we don't have to pass
Yeah.
poverty. You know, life insurance is the best kept secret to creating first generational wealth, right? We're
Mhm.
not investing our money because we've been taught to be afraid of the stock market, or you know, just a lot of different things, and there has been a breakdown of trust, no doubt, from some of the horrible things that have happened where we aren't as trusting, you know, and it's been systematically designed to especially not trust our own people, you know. So you know, we look at businesses and we want to give them a chance, but we're leery, you know. But in the event that we can do some different things to create a way to continue to have money coming in for generations, it definitely starts with what we buy and where we shop, but we also have to take some steps to make sure that we're leaving a legacy. So I
True.
just wanted to throw that in there, but
Yes.
go for it. Tell me more. I'm definitely intrigued in your mission and your movement.
I think one of the other things that you mentioned about us being leery about keeping within the community, one of the things that we really focus on with Black Wall Street Charlotte is education. I think once we get people to the point where they have a better understanding on how to set things up, how things work, the systems that work against us. Once we learn how to use them for our benefit, it will create more trust. But when we're in a place where we're just living for the day and we're not able to plan for the future, a lot of times we get into situations where the businesses that are here are overlooked because there may have been other businesses that have been around longer or other reasons. So the public, not just business owners, but the public also needs to understand how things work. So with us, we really want to make sure that the tools are there for business owners to get what they need and to be able to bring the community back together. That's something that's going to be very important for us to sustain what we do. Even with the pandemic, there were so many new businesses that, you know, were born during that time out of necessity. I mean, there was a lot of job losses and things like that. So we do what we need to do, and that's wonderful, but we need to set it up right. We need to
Absolutely.
talk to people and get them to understand their money, their finances, what to do with them. You know, even the things people don't like to talk about, if it's taxes or whatever, it could be life insurance, real estate, or estate planning, all the things that we don't like to talk about, we really do need to. So I really appreciate platforms like this where you can really open up the conversation and talk
Mhm.
about the things that we don't want to.
Mhm.
I think it's really going to be important going forward.
Yeah. And then piggybacking on that, from the educational part and as well as, you know, just really creating a better understanding of your business. One thing we learned, I know as in my line of work, during the pandemic and the PPP era, where everybody was trying to get these PPP loans. Put your head down.
I did. I did.
Um,
I saw some people on the list that was on their way to jail.
Girl, what are you talking about? I'm
I
like,
saw
really?
some people. I
Really?
was like, wait,
You
you put
got
your
12
home
million.
address on there?
You got $12 million, but you went to go, get a plastic surgery. I'll just leave it at that. So,
Right.
or you went and bought your mama a house, out of that $12 million and stuff. But like I'm saying is that on the flip side of that, there were a lot of businesses that didn't qualify for PPP loans because they just wasn't prepared. And that
Sure.
education piece that we talk about with Black Wall Street Charlotte is that we want to educate and train people on these are the steps you need to make. I've had people come to me and they say, Mr. Brown, I haven't filed taxes in 10 years, but I'm trying to get this PPP loan. And I'm like, well, one of the first things the government's going to ask you is, have you done your taxes? So a lot of it is just really helping them to understand there are opportunities for procurement. If you want to get a contract with the government, they're going to require you to have your taxes done. If you want to require, if you want to do anything on the government level, that's one of the first things they're going to require. They're going to want to know, do you have a profit and loss statement, a balance sheet? What type of accounting system do you have? You can't go in and say, well, my accounting system is an Excel spreadsheet. So different things like that. We want to educate and help them to understand how to navigate through that. Because a lot of the distrust is that we put ourselves in situations to where we have to depend on predatory lenders. We have to depend on people that basically will use us, and then we end up getting hurt on the back end of it. So a lot of it is really guarding yourself and giving the businesses the tools that they need to be successful in growing their business. And lastly, I was looking at some statistics, and there was 3.24 million Black businesses in the United States. Of that, $450 billion was created as far as revenue or receipts. And I said, it's very important to look at that word receipts. Like we make the money. Our community hasn't had a problem making the money, but it's being able to manage the money and to be able to know what to do with that money. Do you invest? Do you do stocks? Do you invest back into the business? Do you set up long-term opportunities and to create generational wealth with that money? So making $450 billion is great, but how much of that $450 billion is actually saved or reinvested back into the business? Or are you taking the money you're making and going and spending it outside of the community as we always do?
Sure. And that is absolutely huge. We are in, even if you don't own a business, we are in every power market. Mm-hmm. We are in healthcare. We are in government. We are in education. We are in every power market. We're in financial services. We're in these power markets. It's not that we don't work hard, to the outsider that feels like we're just not working hard. We do. We work hard. We just play harder, right? We build our financial house upside down where we are living our best life, but we haven't set the foundation for to make sure that financial house doesn't crumble. So the things that you're saying about reinvesting and making sure that you're safeguarding your financial future, we make the money. We just don't keep the money, So I use the phrase that most people don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan, right? This show, the views are lower than other shows because it's a conversation that we, like you said, is unpleasant to have, or people aren't ready to have the conversation. Our life insurance show is probably the lowest viewed. But it's the most uncomfortable thing to talk about, but it's the first thing that's asked about when someone passes away. Yet we put it off. We don't invest for our retirement, so we work till we die. We don't invest in college for our children. So consequently, they're in the student loan line, and we're setting them up to really be shackled down with student loan debt. Just a lot of different things that you can see, and you kind of like waving like, hey, 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 like,
Yeah.
but we continue to have renewed faith, that someone will get it. It may not be a ton of views, but someone will see this and they will take the proper steps. So I loved what you said about business creation and the things that you need, the preliminary things that before you can even go to the table, the things that you need. Is that what you all are going to be specializing in, or one of the areas you're going to be specializing in, which is helping folks that identify that they'd like to be in business for themselves? What the steps are in terms that they can understand? Is that the plan?
Yes, just as you said earlier, I'm glad you brought up the point about that not everybody is a business owner, but we are in power positions in corporate
Sure.
America.
Yes, indeed.
So one of the premises of what we're doing with Black Wall Street Charlotte is, yes, we will be a holistic business development organization. So we even want to work with people who are not business owners, but at some point want to start their own business or want to have a business on the side while they still work in corporate America. But it's really taking the business from conception to all the way through the process of birthing their business. And so we will do everything as far as making sure they have their taxes, make sure they're registered with the local and state and federal government in terms of tax ID numbers and state numbers. We will definitely work with them. Like I said, my wife, she does an excellent job with working with businesses to get their credit where it needs to be. Not just business credit, but personal credit. Because a lot of people, when you first start your business, a lot of what you do on the credit side is really pulling from your personal credit. But
Yeah.
if we get your business to the point to where you can have that business credit, and she can definitely speak on that more. But we will work with the business. But one thing that we want to do is with Black Wall Street is that we just don't want to just be a business directory. We want to be a movement. So we want people who come into Black Wall Street Charlotte understand there's a level of excellency that we want to try to approach and reach. So we may not have 100,000 members. We may
Yeah.
have 2,000.
Yes.
We may
Yes.
have 2,000 great members. That understand the value and understand what we as Black people bring to other communities. Because we want to be excellent in our community, but we also want to be able to provide services to anybody. But we want them to see that it's coming from our community with excellence and that certain level of expectation that comes with that. But yes, that is one of our main missions of creating Black Wall Street, is to work with a business from conception all the way to the day when they open their doors.
I love that. And partnerships with other groups are extremely
Mhm.
important because we are watching, funders who are starting to pour money into our communities, to help us to get on the right path. We're watching, like you said, with the predatory lending thing, for us to
Mhm.
start businesses. Either we were getting denied, or there were terms that we just signed on the dotted line because we wanted the business so bad, but ended up being taken advantage of. So I'm watching financial institutions, seek to combat that, and are starting to pour money into, our communities and things like that. So partnerships with other groups is super important as well.
Mhm.
But we got to get it right first,
Yes.
before, and I kudos to, those partnerships. but we also need to get it right. So I love that you're going to be, starting with someone, in the very beginning stages, and then helping to build them up to their launch, and following them along their journey.
Yes.
That is huge.
Mhm.
The business credit thing is also super. People are starting to catch on to that, where they're not having to tie their personal finances to a business that may not take off the first 5 years, and then they're at a financial loss and a hardship. So I love that. What else can we expect with you all?
Yes. No, no, there's more.
I know.
I was, I was just, I was flowing, but I didn't want to, if
I
she
know.
wanted
I get
something to
it.
say.
I get
But
it.
we're looking to create really a movement, as I said earlier. Like we will be offering workshops with the city, city representatives coming in. We have a partnership with someone in procurement that will come and actually do workshops with the business owners, just to help them to understand what they need to do to be prepared for contracts. We will also be hosting a Black Business Expo in Town Hall, where we'll have a 4-day event where we'll bring in speakers. We have workshops, opportunities for businesses to do a pitch, to get funding, and we'll be doing extensive training on credit, business and personal credit, and different facets of business development. And then we'll have an area where we'll work with college entrepreneurs, high school entrepreneurs, any youth that want to start their own business. So we'll have a section for that, because we want to be able to create business owners at as early age as we can, so they can develop and grow up to become great stewards of what God has blessed them with in their business. Another thing that we will be doing with Black Wall Street Charlotte is we'll have an actual event for women in business, and also women in the executive suite of corporate America, because we definitely want to make sure that we understand that we have to nurture and support women that are out here. They're fighting right alongside of us to grow and develop their business, grow up, develop their personal career. So we'll have that. And then we'll have several networking opportunities throughout the city, as far as what we're doing with Black Wall Street Charlotte.
I love it. And women are definitely stepping into the forefront when it comes to creating businesses. And, there's this whole thing that we talk about a lot with that great resignation, right? Where
Mhm.
during COVID, people realized that they wanted to be home with their families, or they just wanted to live life on their own terms. And like you said, a lot of businesses were created. I watch friends of mine start trucking companies. I watch friends of mine start flipping houses and just doing some things with the money and the opportunity that was given out during COVID. And you look at customer service now, you look at a lot of hospitals and things like that. It is hard to find people that are actually wanting to work, because people are really wanting to do their own thing and
Mhm.
creating their own businesses, and saying I can have both. I can have a business and I have the freedom of time to be with my family. I got to hustle and grind a little bit to make it happen. But, that moment showed us, that we wanted to be with our families more. So women hit the ground running when it came to things like that. No shade to the men, but y'all are already kind of doing it. Um, so I'm very encouraged and inspired by a lot of our girl bosses, or women bosses as they call it, who have stepped out into the forefront. So women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, and things like that, is definitely a key to helping to close this wealth gap. Not to mention the whole great wealth transfer that is due to take place from baby boomers to their loved ones. So wealth creation is all around us. Like you said, we just have to have the tools and the knowledge on how it all works so that we can make it work for us.
Exactly.
So I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you were flowing, like you said, but I like to put a pin in things and kind of come back. I gotta ask a question though. Um, we're going to be sharing your information at the end, but is this going to be exclusively to folks in Charlotte, or can anyone, like I'm near Philly, can anyone benefit from the services you offer, or y'all expanding and opening other chapters? Like, how does this work?
Well, right
Go ahead.
now, what we're focusing on is the Charlotte area, but the services that we're offering, the classes and the other things that we will be doing, we will have virtual classes. So other people will be able to reap the benefits of those, even though they're not here in the Charlotte area.
Beautiful.
So as far as following and all of that, it's open to whomever. But when we talk about things with the market and trying to get those businesses together with the community, we'll keep that local. But at this point, I don't know if we'll expand, into other cities. We've already had one
Yeah.
request to
Big.
expand. And so
Mhm.
right now, we just want to get this one going
Of
and
course.
see how we do with this.
Right.
And then if we can spread it, we want to, because it's not something that is just for us here in Charlotte. This is something that is all over the country that we need. And we want to be able to do what we can to just help
Mhm.
create wealth, keep the wealth in the community, and to close the gap.
Right.
We're able to do it. I mean, we make the money. We just need to know how to manage it better. And so the things that you've been talking about over the last few weeks are those things that we really need to do. It's more than just saying, yeah, I know I need to look at life insurance. You really do. GoFundMe is not a life insurance policy.
No.
So, if we can get that information out there and just push it, we are all for it.
Yes.
Absolutely. I definitely hope to be able to partner with you all on some of those things, because it's really, really crucial. And some of the statistics are very staggering of
Mhm.
those who don't leave any kind of legacy, because they're not properly planning. Another statistic I read, it said American households are reducing saving for the future and cutting back on non-essential purchases to cope with inflation, the inflation bite, as they say. A lot of households are taking a beating, especially now. We laugh about the price of eggs or the price of gas, or, different things, price of chicken. One of my friends talks about peaches that were like $6 a pound. Um,
Ooh,
Wow.
Lord
it
have mercy.
says, yeah, and we don't, while we're trying to pull ourselves up, there are things like inflation and the rising costs of everything. It says that 76% of households are cutting back on non-essential purchases, right? But 47% are putting off regular maintenance of things, right? Food was something that people cut back on, right? And we got to choose between feeding our families and being able to pay our bills. People are 28% of people are using credit cards more, so credit card debt is skyrocketing, and just putting us back into a situation where people end up feeling like they're drowning, right? But it says 17% are earning additional income through part-time work, right? that's a low number, especially with these other high numbers, right?
Mhm. Right.
People aren't necessarily, they're just kind of settling into to how things are, right? 10%
Mhm.
of people are finding a higher paying job, right? Just to, the minimum wage is crap in a lot of states, and the $20 an hour jobs, they're not cutting it, so
Right.
if you can speak to some of those things, and what might be some alternatives to combating, the rising costs in today's economy. um, what's your take on some of those things, and what would you suggest? I know starting a business is definitely one of those things, but what would you suggest?
Also, I think another thing is, as it is in everything, planning is always going to give you an answer to help you move things along. Planning is what always creates sustainability for your future. And while we have to pick and choose where we spend our money, we need to really sit down and take a look at the whole picture.
Mhm.
Because today we have to worry about today, but also there's next week, next month, we have our families and everything that we have to look out for.
True.
And so in this situation since COVID, we have more opportunities to do things.
Yes.
So, you know, if someone picks up a part-time job, that's one thing that could help. Starting the business, that's just a great thing that a lot of people are taking advantage of. I think that's why we can't find workers now. Why help is so hard to find is because people are really out here doing their own things. So even in being able to take that on, I think it's another thing that will help. But again, our spending needs to be checked. There needs to be some accountability for that.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
because I know we have 14 subscriptions to Hulu and
Come
Netflix,
on now.
whatever we're doing, is that really necessary? We put a lot of money into entertainment. We put a lot of money into our hair. We put a lot of money into things that are, not as important, but the money is pouring in.
Yes.
So if we really sit down and take some time to plan and think about what we can do differently, there are things.
Mhm.
It may be that you need to make sandwiches instead of eating lunch out every day. That makes a difference. It takes some
Mhm.
effort, but in the long run, just imagine if you're spending $10 a day for lunch in a month, that's $300.
Come on.
You have to really sit and think about it. And it's not something that we can't do. It's just something that we don't want to do because we like to create our lives in a way that's comfortable. And
Right.
this is the time when we may need to tweak it a little bit.
Right.
We're celebrating too soon, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We're living the life as if we're wealthy, and we haven't gotten there yet. And I laugh because it's like we complaining about the price of eggs, but we are, buying $200, $300 wigs. It's a
Yeah.
lot of. I mean, I these are the things that I'm seeing all the time. There's a status about the price of eggs, and then there's just got my hair tossed at blah blah blah. And I'm not knocking anyone if you work hard and you want to treat yourself, but some of that money really could be allocated for other things. I,
Mhm.
I talk about emergency accounts. Do you have 3 to 6 months of your salary saved? COVID exposed that we're not financially prepared for emergencies,
Right.
and if we had
Mhm.
emergency accounts, the food bank lines, when the lost wages took place, when people lost their jobs and things like that, there's still some people that are trying to rebound from that.
Yeah.
So the planning is mega important. The discipline is mega important. If we have that discipline, and I certainly have been taking a look at, you know, what I could do, to not necessarily alter my life in a drastic way, but what are those little things? You talked about the subscriptions. Our subscriptions um are staggering. We have every plus, every streaming
Mhm.
device, everything um to watch what they call their vision. That's what we say TV is their vision,
Oh,
right?
TV.
So
Yeah.
you know, it's a lot. It's a lot.
I know, but even with your subscription, if you can begin to make small but consistent changes, or use things that are in place to work for you. For instance, they auto draft your subscription. And if you decided to let go of Spotify and took that $15 a month or whatever it is and put it somewhere else. I mean, it's one small thing, but systematically over time, it does add up. And so we
Hmm.
just have to be able to sacrifice a little bit to make a bigger change
Mhm.
in the long run.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say coaching is key.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Financial coaching. Get with someone who can sit down, shameless plug, and can help you to map out what this looks like. Where am I at now? Where do I want to be? And how in the world am I supposed to get there? What are the things that I'm spending my money on? There's so many times that I sit with someone and they have no idea where their paycheck went, right?
Right.
I got it on this day and now it's gone and I don't know what I did with it. Especially the income tax thing. I'm seeing people already talking about their income tax is gone.
Oh yeah.
Just a lot of different things, where we bought a flat screen or whatever it is, and the discipline is the thing that's running, under the radar, so to speak. It's not being looked at. We have the capabilities to get it done. We have the capabilities to modify those $15 subscriptions. Really do add up.
Mhm.
When you're looking at things. I remember one time um I had saved like a bunch of change. If I was going to a store in the morning, maybe I was going somewhere and I bought a coffee, I was just saving the change from it. That's a small discipline where you can just start. It doesn't have to be that you're putting hundreds of dollars away a month. Something small, a small discipline to do that. And when I looked up, I had money and I think I went and bought my kids bunk beds when they were little or something like that,
Mhm.
just with the small savings. Or when I purchased coffee, I looked up from the change I had saved like $60 just from that month, so
Mhm.
not spending every dollar that we have. The paycheck cycle is what it is, and we understand for those who are strapped, we get it, but there's always some wiggle room to put some money to the side. So
Yeah. And also to just, pay attention to where your money is going. Like people say,
mhm,
I don't know. Look at your bank statement. Look at
mhm,
it. I know
mhm.
mine comes to my email. I never look at it. I check it on my app every day. So I know what's going on. But people say, I don't know. I'm like, yes, you do. It's right there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And if you sit down with it, you can look at that and really figure out where your money is going and where you can make changes.
Yeah.
And,
indeed.
the two of us, we have dual subscriptions to stuff. I'm like, one of us needs to let it go,
Right.
you know? And it's like, we're too lazy to call and sit on hold for 24 minutes to get it taken care of. But those are the things, the little drips of money that we miss.
Yeah.
The habits and behaviors. You just said it. We got habits and we got behaviors. Don't nobody feel like calling customer service because no one came to work that day because they all quit.
Mhm.
Right.
So those are the things that we run up against. You're absolutely right. The hassle, the hustle, the bustle, the online, you trying to cancel. We acknowledge that there's some speed bumps that might slow us down, but what you said was we both realize we both have this going on, and we can eliminate that. So the discipline,
Mhm.
the energy, and the time to make those things happen are small things that you can do. I wanna ask you all, what do you suggest to a parent who has young children and wants to get them started on the path to a better financial future?
Um, I guess my advice to the parents is to really to create an environment for their kids on that. I think a lot of times um, they can learn by an example that we set as parents. And even if you're a parent and you feel like that, you're at a place where it's hard for you to dig out of a hole, really consider the fact that you don't want your kids to repeat what you went through. So I think at an early stage, teaching our kids about entrepreneurship, teaching them about just really a lot of times, our first thought is, well, we want our kids to go to college, we want them to do this and do that. I think education is great. Education comes in different forms. And I think one of the things is to educate our kids on how to be disciplined. It just as we talked about, saving money, investing, and starting a business. I was 8 years old when I started my first business. My dad had a lawn care business, and my brother and I we worked with him in the lawn care business. And the money that we made, that was made, he split the money with us. So I was able to understand what it felt like to go out there and create my own income and different things like that. So I've had the entrepreneur bug since I was 8. But my thing is that I think for parents, we really need to educate ourselves so that we can turn around and educate our kids on all of the different facets of wealth building, creating opportunities for them to do. One thing that I hate that I didn't do at a very young age, my parents used to really drill down on us about saving and saving and saving. And I didn't really follow that because I just had so much other stuff going on. But but one thing that I try to tell, our kids is, start saving. At 17, 15 years old, 20 years old, if you save a little bit, by the time you become 30, 40, 50 years old, you got $500,000
Come
to
on
save,
now.
and because it goes back to that math and numbers. It's called compound interest.
Boom.
We need to teach our kids what compound interest means. So if you save a little bit, even if it's $20 a month or $10 a month, and just let it sit and add on top of that, you'll be surprised what you'll have at 40, 50 years old. So we need to teach our kids that. Other communities, they teach their kids stuff like that at a very young age.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's what we're doing our kids a disservice when we show them that every little bit of money we make, we're going to spend it. So and I'm so those things are very important that we teach our kids those little things to give them tools as they grow older, and as they navigate through life. But I love what you said earlier about insurance. It's a great way to create that first generational wealth is if we have insurance policies and different things like that. Because I see so many in the other communities, they pass away, they've left $300,000 or $400,000.
Left a house.
They've left a house, all these different things. And so, at 30 years old, if you're unfortunate to lose your parent or somebody like that, at 30 years old, you have a house or $300,000 or $400,000 that you can, work with. So those are things that are very important too. I think a lot of that responsibility falls on the parents to create the atmosphere for their kids so that we don't, leave them in debt,
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing is that we are often like the GoFundMe just gets us in the ground, right? It doesn't plug those gaps of, making sure that you are leaving behind enough money until your child is 18 or 21 and can can start to build and do some things for themselves. It's tax-free money, for crying out loud. And I always say to people, if you can't afford it now, how in the world will your family eat if half the income, or if you're a single parent, all the income goes in the ground with you? How can you do that? So that is definitely something that we have to get better with. And we see rappers and people that are passing away, and they had the record execs that got policies on them, but they didn't have policies on themselves. So that is huge. That is the foundation for really building a strong financial house. So we are going to get ready to wrap up. I want you all to close us out and leave us.
And what's that thing you say? I like your other show, debt. What do you say the letters is?
Oh, we say debt stands for don't even buy that. Don't even buy that, right?
Yeah.
I like that.
And thank you for listening to my other shows. Thank you.
Yeah. I listened to your other show, and when you said that, I just fell back. I was like, I like that.
Absolutely. So I want you all to first and foremost tell us how we can contact you, what if your social media handles, emails, whatever you would like to leave, especially for the people of Charlotte. Our reach certainly expands all over the country. We have people tune in from everywhere. So how can they get a hold of you? And then I also would love for you to just close us out with a charge of what you'd like to see for our communities as we close out a really powerful Black History Month. So take us out.
Okay. Yes, we are Shelton, and this is Tiffany Brown. We are Black Wall Street Charlotte. You can reach us at www.blackwallstreetcharlotte.org. And you can reach us by email at info@blackwallstreetcharlotte.org. Our phone number is 704-626-1084. And we are on social media platforms. We are on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. All of those are under Black. Oh, yeah. We have a YouTube also that we will be developing. And all of those are under the handle of Black Wall Street Charlotte, Inc. Okay.
All right. Perfect. Now, just give us a charge.
Okay.
I think that the challenge for us is to really take a look in the mirror. We need to make sure that we are honest with ourselves about our spending and what we can do to make it better. It's something that we may not want to talk about with other people, but even if you don't know what to do, have someone to help you. But we really need to do this. I mean, it's something where for a long time, things have gone unchecked, but we're in a time when inflation is high, things are different, we're having to make different choices. And so this is something that will help us sustain while we're going through this. I think that's probably the most important thing, to really just sit down and take a look, check your spending, check for any leaks. If there's something that you don't use, get rid of it. Don't allow those little things to take away from what you could be using to build up.
Absolutely. You got one? You got something for us, Shelton?
No, I totally agree with my wife on that. I think the biggest thing that will help us, and my charge to not just the Black business community, but the Black community in a whole, even communities outside of our community, is to really focus on planning, create a budget for your home, really, spend the next 30, 60 days just reevaluating where you spend and how you spend, and establish a budget for your household. That gives you opportunity to plan. So I would love, for us all to do that, even us, and we try to get our kids to do that, people that we know, clients that we work with, and even those who are on this call. We just really think the biggest thing to do now is to really start thinking about planning and creating a budget. And we thank everybody who attended, who are watching this show tonight. We thank God for this opportunity to expand our platform and to be a part of what you all are doing with you. And we're just so grateful for this opportunity.
So this will not be the last time, as we have discussed. You all have other valuable things show topics. We talked about one aspect, but we have other valuable things that I'm definitely going to be tapping into and using you all for your resources and for the exposure. I believe that everybody needs the exposure. So, we try to get as many people on our platform who share in the vision and want to empower everyone to make some different changes as it pertains to all money matters. Mm-hmm. So I said it before, I'll say it again. I cannot thank you enough for sharing your time with our audience and just, really pouring into, you could see the passion coming all out of you all while you were talking. So
thank you.
You're passionate about, what you're doing and how you're trying to impact the communities that we live in every day. So that concludes Your Money Matters, a financial empowerment show. We look forward to connecting with you all next week, where we'll be tapping into cryptocurrency. We have had people to ask how it works, what I should be doing. Is it something that I need to be adding into my diversification, my portfolio, whatever the case may be? So we will have a gentleman on, but the rest of March will be dedicated to Women's History Month. So girls will run the world for that month, with the exception of the gentleman that's coming on. So that concludes this episode, and I thank you all for tuning in, and I'll talk with you guys soon.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
CMPRadio.net, it's the station. Listen, man, let's cultivate together. Bring us all your show ideas. Content creators, we're looking for that. Videographers, we're looking for that. You can be a part of the next great big thing that takes place right here in Chester, Pennsylvania. Let's cultivate together, man.